And we are live here on Facebook. And so we'll let that play just a bit.
Here we are. Share. Cool beans. All right.
Gotta share it out.
Share it on my page.
All right.
Share it on my LoSo Lifestyle. Share it to Shake It. Cool beans. It's funny when you have the watch party, you've got those 2 seconds in the beginning where everybody's just staring at the screen, watching me do nothing. And it's like, don't go away, we're here. Don't forget, we got an internet radio station too that has to wait for us to go live. And the freeze frames on Facebook are fantastic.
They are, and we are now live. We are live on 216thenet, 216thenet.com. And you are here today with Mary Shep on My LoSo Lifestyle. Mary, what are we going to be talking about today? What's today's show about?
So today we're going to talk about making time to cook. And that kind of goes into all facets of your life, making time for anything. So I know this is going to sound really, really deep and all that good stuff, but
Deep is okay.
Time is a matter of perspective. And it's your perspective. It's not anybody else's perspective. And it's really hard to, everybody says step in someone else's shoes or walk a mile in my footsteps. You can say you can do that, but you can't. So making time is literally up to you. If you don't have enough time to cook, or you don't have enough time to read, or you don't have enough time to exercise, hey Terry, you don't have enough time to do whatever else it is. Usually it's something you're avoiding that you don't have time for, or you don't truly want to do. I don't want to read, so I don't have time to read. I don't want to exercise, so I don't have time to exercise.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
There's a guy that I know who actually sold me my car. He's a known salesman here in the area who runs. You see him everywhere, running all the time. He run, how do you have time to run so much? Or I love cooking, so it's easy for me to make time to cook. That being said, it's a matter of what and where you put importance in your life. So I have a little test for everybody. I'll post my list later on my page, but I want you to make a list of importance and do it quickly. Literally fast, super fast. Make a list of things that are important to you, and you'll be surprised at what you put down.
Just like really fast, like how much
your
time
instinct,
would you give yourself?
What things are important to you? Everybody has the obvious: family, job, money, whatever. What's important to you? And like I said, I'll post my list a little bit later, but it surprises you once you put it down on paper where the importance lies in your life, and then evaluate it. Look at it and actually evaluate what you feel is important to you. And you'll kind of give yourself your own perspective on time and what you allow yourself time for, whether it be to go out with friends or to be lazy or to watch TV, play on your phone, play games. If you think about how often you do something like play a video game or watch a movie and how much time that takes out of your life, and suddenly you go, is that really what's important to me? And you value that time. So time is a matter of perspective, and it's relative to you and your life. And it's also relative to how old you are. So as a child, as a 1-year-old child, your entire perspective of time is 1 year. So 1 month is 1/12 of your entire perspective. It's a really long time. And a year is actually a relatively short period of time in the grand scheme of things.
Mm.
But as you get older, so now when you're 10, a year is 1/10 of your perspective. So things go by faster. And then of course, when you're 50, now half of your perspective. So something like a month or a week, or it's just a blip.
Yeah,
because you're like, I spent 10 years fighting in a war, or battling cancer, or just living life. You have all these things, so your perspective is skewed. So as you get older, your time seems to fly by.
Time totally flies. I mean, I'm well past 50,
right.
and a day is nothing. A day, you're absolutely right. It's a blip. And I schedule blocks of time so tight
Mm-hmm.
because there's just so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just boom, 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 boom. I mean, my day starts at 4:30 in the morning, usually
4:45, same,
yeah, right around there. And I will finally finish up and get home about 11 o'clock tonight.
That's
And
see, I'm not that bad, but I value sleep. And I unfortunately, being me, I need it. I genuinely need it. So I do put a lot of value behind sleep. But I totally get it. It's the same where you're just carving out minutes in the day. And that's where so many people ask me, how do you find time? Well, I put a lot into that perspective of what's important to me and what do I genuinely care about. And it's a fun little test to do, because when you write it down and you say, okay, so family's important to me. Really? How much time do you carve out for your family? Okay, so I have dinner with my family. Do you? Or do you sit and dick around on your phone? Like, seriously, like
yeah.
food is not, or like dinner at our house. I have my phone there because I'm the kind of person who, if there's an emergency, you can call me at 3:00 in the morning, and the chances are I'm either going to answer, or I'm going to immediately call you back. Because sadly, I've gotten that phone call where, you get the call that says, hey, you need to come to the hospital because somebody's half dead.
Mm.
And you don't want to miss that call. So, but at the same time, so I have my phone there. I mean, I have a job that people require me to be there for them, but I don't touch it. I look, if it's not a 911, it sits there. We don't, that's our time to discuss whatever it is. And if you can't find something to talk to your family or kids about, do an oddball, like, let's find an odd fact. Like, if you're going to have your phone there, look up something ridiculous just to talk about, like, I don't know, the fungus that makes ants climb up trees and turn into zombies. It's a legit thing. Look it up. But, like, if you say you value your family and that's time, do you actually make time for that? Same as, do you make time for cooking?
See, and I do know that's, man, you bring up a good point, because my wife and I, when we're together and we're having dinner at home or whatever, usually, phones are handy, or, they're in a hand or whatever, or we're watching something. Right. But, we're together. But when we go out, I generally hand her my phone. Mm-hmm. And, here, it's there just in case, for whatever reason, the kids or family calls, and either she doesn't hear it, or
right.
But she's got it, and we actually
communicate.
We talk, but there's,
at home you don't.
And at home it's, well, I mean, surprisingly we do, but you've got to you got to make that effort.
Right.
Because
so when you put it on paper and say that's what you value, and then you evaluate that list and go, okay, so I put family at the top. And that's not surprisingly at the top of my list, but like I said, I'll post it later. And it's surprising, because you're like, okay, so I said that I value this, and yet what have I actually done about it? I value my health, and I genuinely enjoy cooking, and that's part of it. But to find time, it is all a matter of perspective. So if you put value behind food, and not make it such a chore, then you will find a way to carve out a little bit more time. And when you get the family involved, and you get your spouse, your partner, your kids, or whoever it is, when you get other people involved and you do a little bit of planning, you don't need to be a genius at it. But when you get a little tiny bit, it goes a long way. So sorry about my little diatribe on perspective,
but that's cool
mm-hmm.
because I mean, we talked about your title for the show today is Making Time to Cook,
but it's not just cooking; it's everything.
It's everything. But that's the thing is, you said people always ask you, when do you find time or how do you have time? But you make it.
Yeah, I don't have time. I literally make time because I have a very high value about that time I get to spend sitting. And I know I have all the time in the world to spend it with my husband, but reality is you don't. One day I woke up and I have a dead liver. Like I went to work one day and I got to work at 10 to 7. And at about 7:06, I got a phone call that said, you need to come to the Woodstock Hospital because your husband is alive, was what I was told. You need to stay calm and just get here. And that's how bad things are when something's bad, is they just tell you he's alive.
Wow.
Obviously he's good. He's all good.
Yeah.
So long story short, happy ending. He's in one piece. And
long story short, he lived.
Yeah. But you think you have all the time in the world, and then you don't make time for these things, and you really should, because food can be a fantastic thing. It can heal you. It can make you better. It can make you healthier. It can also make you fatter and miserable and depressed and ruin your life if you let it. You just need to decide where you're going to put those values. And what your perspective is going to be. Because if your perspective is on that other side of how horrible it is, you need to work on switching your perspective to say, okay, I'm not going to let this be horrible. Let's find something that I do like about it. Like, I love grilled cheese sandwiches. Start with grilled cheese sandwiches. Make the best damn grilled cheese sandwich you've ever made. And suddenly you found something about cooking that you like, or chocolate chip cookies or something.
And suddenly that's not a job. It's not a chore. It's not something you have to do. It's something you get to do.
Right. And if you hate it, and maybe get your kids involved, because if your kids love it, maybe you'll love it a little bit just because your kids do. So.
See, and Alex here says, if you don't spend the time, you die. So your priorities shift. What was busy doesn't always seem so busy anymore. It's
very true. It is very true. And when you do put, everybody puts so much weight on the bad things in life. And it's, I have liver disease and I can't smoke and I can't drink and I can't go out and I can't do this and I got to eat a special diet and I got to do all these tests and I got doctor appointments and blah, blah, and blah. Versus, the amount of health that I've gained eating better and all of those things, it's like I put the value on the good. I'm still here. I'm not on a liver transplant list. I'm not dying. I'm not in the hospital. And because of food, I am not on any medication. I don't take any supplements. I don't do nothing. And it's all purely food. That's it. So when you say, okay, I have one thing. I have liver disease. I don't have a whole host of bad things. It's all bad. I have one thing. I have a ton of good things. And it's all because I switched my perspective a little bit, and I made time for the things that I value, and one of those things is I love cooking. I love sharing my food. Heck, I'm on a radio show talking about salt every week. Like, how much more love can you get for food if you're talking about the worst kind, which is unsalted food? At least it's good food, from the people that tell me so anyway.
Well, you've made some stuff that we've had here in the studio, and I know
I'm going to make you eat Brussels sprouts too.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, we'll find it.
Brussels
you got to at least try. At least taste it.
That's like right up there with bananas for me. And I know you hate bananas.
Hate bananas. And I eat 2 of them every
day.
Eat
them. I'm impressed, because I can't. I cannot do a banana at all. And Brussels sprouts are exactly right behind them.
Well, we'll see if we can get you. So the thing with bananas is potassium helps your body eliminate salt. So as long as you're not on any potassium sparing medications or anything like that, because potassium is one of those things that will interfere with heart medications and all sorts of a host of so is grapefruit. They just do. So you got to be careful with that. But potassium helps rid your body of salt. So the easiest way for me to get potassium outside of eating 16 million carbs and a plate of potatoes is to have a banana in the morning and a banana in the afternoon. It gives me the energy I need without bogging me down, because processing food is an exhausting thing. And it gives me the potassium I need so I don't bloat up like a, blueberry on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
No.
Yeah.
So now getting back on track with making time to cook, where do you start?
So I started, I always tell people to start and make the smallest little itty bitty plan. You don't have to be a planner, but you start with, what do I eat? What do I make? Do I make spaghetti? Do I make tacos? Pick 2 or 3 meals that you make and make them bigger. So instead of cooking every single night of the week, if you come up with a meal plan of sorts, and you make those bigger. So if you make spaghetti, make a bigger batch of sauce and freeze it. If you make mashed potatoes tonight and pork chops, make a bigger batch of mashed potatoes and freeze it. And if you chop 1 onion for your tacos, chop 2 and put it in a bag and freeze it. And then all of a sudden you have a freezer full. So making time, I do a lot of prep and I do a lot of pantry. So having a stocked freezer and a stocked pantry is crucial, because then any night of the week, if you want to make something, if I'm missing, just the protein to make a pork tenderloin or something, I can stop at the store, grab just that. I'm in and out 5 minutes and go home, and I have the rest in my cupboard. In worst case scenario, you can throw just about anything into a big old casserole dish and throw it in the oven and cook it all. Like the other night, I made a seared pork medallions with mushroom and onion in a white wine sauce, and then the roasted veg and stuff. And that's what's here today. It's roasted Brussels sprouts with balsamic and grapes.
See, I think my mother would love that.
Yeah.
But she loves Brussels sprouts.
Well, if you like cabbage, you usually like Brussels sprouts. But if you don't want to take the time to make it all as one big, beautiful meal, you can literally throw all of that crap into one casserole dish and cook it. So if you have things prepped like that, you can go into your pantry or you can go into your cupboard and throw a bunch of rice and some broth or stock or water and a bunch of chopped up veg from the fridge. Even if you don't have time, buy it that way. I mean, it's a little more expensive, but if that's where your value is to save yourself time cutting onions, and you can get a pre-packaged bag of diced onions. You just have to pay attention to the label, because a lot of them have salt. You just got to watch your labels. But you literally just throw it all in a big dish, throw it in the oven, 350 for an hour, and it's done. And it doesn't have to be an overwhelming thing. So prep for me is huge. And there are some things that, especially with kids, that are super, super easy. We touched on this a little bit when I brought the egg bites last show. Stuff like that freezes well. And if you get your kids involved, they absolutely love it. So, frittatas or the little egg bites that I made, those freeze well.
Those were freaking good.
Right.
Thank you, by the way.
And they're great, easy meals that you can make really quickly at home. So it doesn't have to be a 6-hour process when you get home. And if you plan a little bit, it makes it a whole lot easier to make big meals if that's what you want. And then if you just make more, you got 2-3 nights a week you could just fend for yourself and have leftovers. So it makes a big difference. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Now, when you talked a little bit about keeping things stocked and then you just run in and out of the store, but how do you shop to keep, that seems like that would take a lot of time to keep a stocked pantry, a stocked kitchen?
It really doesn't, to be honest. Once it seems that way. It seems daunting. All of it always seems daunting, especially when you're taking on a new task and you just don't know where to begin. You look at things and you're like, where do I start? Where do I find the recipes? Where do I find the meals? Where do I find this? And everybody thinks that it's gotta be, you gotta be the next Gordon Ramsay or something and make some big, beautiful meal every single night. That's not the
You
case.
just make stuff you want to eat.
Right. You just go through your menu and say, okay, what do I cook when I do cook? Because, most people do. And unfortunately, I know there are a lot of people that have never cooked. And I think about people like that a lot of times. When I think about when I was diagnosed and I went home, I can cook. I could cook before. I've always loved food. I always like food. It's just been me all my life. But those people who've lived their entire life on fast food and restaurants and people making them, things for them, what the hell do they do? You know, you've never picked up a pot, like the Worst Cooks in America show, where you see people, you're like, you really don't know how to boil water. But it's true. There's a lot of people like that.
I mean, I was like, before I met my wife, I mean, you know, when I met my wife, she's like, "Oh, you don't have any food in the house," and well, okay, we'll go get some groceries. I think I said this to you before last time or something. I used to go grocery shopping at 7-Eleven. If I couldn't microwave
It's
it,
a good thing you found yourself a better half.
well, if I couldn't microwave it, I didn't buy it.
Right.
That's just the way it worked.
And it's funny because when I always tell people, especially if you don't cook, you don't know how to cook, you never have cooked. And even with this, where even people who do know how to cook and your whole world's flipped upside down, and now suddenly you can't have salt, you can't have sugar, you can't have something. Everything you've known is now got to be shifted. So even when I did know how to cook, you know, if you ever look at someone, they throw salt in things by the bucket, and I can't. Yeah, they can't do that anymore. Well, how the heck am I going to do that? So you pick one thing. You pick your battle one at a time. So what do you like? You like grilled cheese? I always say that because it's one of my favorite things. You like spaghetti? If you like Subway sandwiches, go, how do I make that in the way that I can eat it or closest to? And you master that one thing. And then you move on to the next. And surprisingly, like if you like Alfredo, pasta Alfredo, chicken Alfredo, shrimp Alfredo, you like Alfredo sauce, figure out how to make an Alfredo sauce. And believe me, when you learn how to make one thing, it opens your world. Because if you notice, once you start going through all my recipes, a lot of them, and that's what I eventually intend to have my cookbook be, is they're variations of the same base. So if you learn how to make a wine sauce, you can turn it into any wine sauce. It goes from an onion wine sauce to a garlic wine sauce to a shrimp wine sauce to a pasta wine sauce, mushroom wine sauce, zucchini wine sauce. Like you can, once you learn the fundamental base of how to make that sauce or that Alfredo or, that grilled cheese sandwich, now you can make any grilled sandwich and it feels like you're eating something different when in actuality, you just learned how to make a grilled sandwich. Or casserole dishes, tacos, fajitas. There's so many different things that once you learn that base, you literally open up everything else, and it's not as daunting to do. So when you find that one or two or three things that you like and you know how to cook, you make your grocery list according to that and shop for the whole week. So you have one shopping trip. Me personally, at this point, I have my fridge and my freezer and my pantry stocked. And then I stop, honest to God, at the grocery store almost every night.
Wow.
I'm a little bit more of a fluid menu person. So I have all of the base ingredients in my house. I have garlic, I have onions, I have peppers, rice, noodles, pasta, all that stuff. And then a bunch of stuff in my freezer. So I usually stop at the grocery store for a protein.
Okay.
Just because I don't like having 82 pounds of protein. And a lot of times I tend to get meat from a butcher. So it's one of my go-to places. I stop and grab two things and I'm in and out and go home. And it adds 10 minutes to my trip home, and that's fine for me. So I don't necessarily, but if you're okay with being a freezer kind of person, I wholeheartedly recommend finding a butcher in your area, getting yourself a quarter of a cow, a quarter of a pig, split it with a family member. It's fantastic because you have prime cuts at a very, very good price sitting right in your freezer at all times. And it's by and far, no offense to grocery stores, but it's by and far better than anything you're ever going to taste, especially chicken. I have a whole other show I can talk about on chicken because I have opinions. I've got opinions on that.
Opinions on chicken?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now you mentioned too that you like to shop at like big box places.
Oh yeah, I do. Even though it's just me and my husband, when you can shop at these bigger places and portion everything out. So like at Sam's or Costco, you can get a pork loin, and it's everything from the roast to the chop, and you just cut it up. So you can cut it, your bit for your pork roast, and then you've got a certain amount of chops, and then you've got an end bit that I use for like my pulled pork, shredded pork sandwiches, stuff like that. So you can, same with, steaks and stuff and ground beef, you can buy in these huge portions and portion it down so people don't shop at those places because of the fact that, I can only buy a 16-pound roast. I don't want 16 pounds. So cut it up. Save yourself time. You don't have to make this huge roast all in one fashion, or cook the whole thing and make something like I do a pulled pork recipe or shredded beef or Italian beefs. And then once it's cooked, portion those out into individual portions. So however big your individual is, if you want to do a family portion or a personalized portion, you portion out and freeze it. And when you freeze little Ziploc baggies, I should have Ziploc sponsor us because they're zipper baggies unless you want the actual brand.
Okay.
But if you freeze them in the freezer safe bags, flat, like even soup, if you make sure it's sealed tight and lay it flat in your freezer, it's a flat little tiny book, and you can stack 20 of them in your freezer. So I have mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, soup, pasta sauce, Alfredo. Like I have all these different sauces and soups and vegetables all frozen. The only thing that is tricky is vegetables, because you have to freeze it on a tray and they're all separate. And then once they're frozen, you put them in a bag, just because if you freeze it in a bag, they'll all turn into one big giant block of mush.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's, I do love the big box stores because you can portion out so much of that stuff into smaller portions, and almost everything freezes. And if you don't know how to freeze it, there's this fantastic little thing called the internet where you can just look up how to freeze zucchini. You'll get about 7 billion responses on how to freeze zucchini. So
really,
it's you can find out how to do anything,
Well, that actually never even really occurred to me, that you would freeze vegetables on a tray and then package them so that they don't just go flip.
Yep, because they'll freeze together because of the moisture in the vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you, in some vegetables, I usually call it the slimy ones, like zucchini, when you cut it and it gets like a slime on it.
Yeah. Okra.
Right, okra, stuff like that. So things like that you have to blanch first. So you boil it in water for 30, 45 seconds and then throw it immediately into an ice bath to stop the cooking. And it stops that sliminess. It stops them from turning brown. It keeps a nice vibrant color. You can do that with broccoli, carrots. They're not completely cooked. It's just, it's a chemical, it's a reaction that saves the coloring and the structure of the food itself. And then you can cool it down, and it's a process. So if you want to do those kinds of things and save yourself the money, which I do, I pick a day and go, this is my day. I'm going to turn some music on. My husband and I hang out in the kitchen. I make a huge batch of pasta sauce. I make salsa. I make all my vegetables. But it's like I get a huge giant vat of my bolognese sauce and my salsa and portion some of it out for other things. But in the process of cutting the things up for that salsa or sauce, instead of 2 onions for my sauce, I'll cut up 6 onions and freeze whatever, or put it in little Ziploc baggies. So right now in my fridge, if you want, like my husband, if he wants to make, he's got this kick lately for these Gordon Ramsay scrambled eggs. They're fantastic, by the way. But you can reach into the drawer, in the crisper drawer, and he can throw in onions or, celery or carrots or whatever. They're all right there, already pre-diced. You just throw them in. Mushrooms, the whole 9 yards, and they keep just fine. Well, mushrooms are, they don't keep very long. You might want to cook those.
No, yeah, I love mushrooms. I actually really do. And you do have to use those up pretty quick when you buy them, when you get them. I've never frozen it. Can you freeze a mushroom? I mean, you can probably freeze anything.
You can. There's a lot of different stir-fry dishes that freeze. It changes the texture of the mushroom, so I'm not a huge fan because I'm a textural person. But yeah, you can You can freeze mushrooms. You can freeze just about
Pretty much
anything.
anything. Yeah. But I don't think I've even ever had a frozen mushroom.
My favorite is mashed potatoes because people don't think you can freeze. They don't think to freeze that, but the time it takes to boil water, and then the next 10, 12 minutes it takes to boil the potatoes themselves, you're half an hour into one dish versus making a big pot of them and then freezing your little zipper baggies.
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can have a steak night where you grill a steak and it takes, 2-3 minutes each side on a screaming hot grill. And you break out, some peas and a bag of mashed potatoes and you suddenly have dinner.
Wow.
And it's a 15-minute dinner. It doesn't, and you're thinking, oh, I want a steak dinner, but it's going to be 6 hours. We'll just go to a restaurant. Well, Not really, especially if you grill stuff. Grilled dinners, I love grilled dinners because I will throw the zucchini, a whole onion, everything on the grill, and it's always a 15-minute dinner, always. Yeah,
well. See, now it doesn't sound like it's that difficult. When you break this stuff down, and now all of a sudden it's a 15-minute thing to eat,
right?
And that's
it. The downfall of food is it's like Thanksgiving. You spend a month preparing and ordering and getting food and planning everything and where's everyone going to sit, and you do all of this stuff, and then you spend a day or two, some people 3 days to cook, and then you're all done eating in 15 minutes, which is probably why so many people hate food, because you spend 2 hours cooking and prepping, and then you eat in 10 minutes, and then you spend 2 hours cleaning and doing whatever. So I'm the queen. The people that know me know I love my thingies. Everything's called a thingy unless it has a specific name, like a pizza
that's my
a
thingy.
steak. It's a thingy. It's a taco thingy. It's a noodly pasta spicy thingy. It's a chicken pea, asparagus thingy. It's just, I threw everything in a bunch in a big pot and cooked it, and it turned into a thingy because I don't like to do dishes and I don't like to complicate things. So I love the one pot meals. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, we're already at the bottom of the hour, if you can believe it. This goes so quickly. But I know that you actually had wanted to talk about a little something and a little someone. So why don't you go ahead and do that?
So there's a group I'm part of. We talked about before where I'm part of, Shaking the Salt and Hacking Salt. Those are my mainstays of low sodium. But I'm a foodie, so it's not the only food group I'm part of. I am a member of Foul Mouth Foodies, so it's not for the faint of heart. It is a group of a lot of foul-mouthed chefs, hence
people
the title.
Can find, is that a Facebook group thing?
Facebook group, Foul Mouth Foodies. And every week Aaron has a competition. So a couple weeks ago they had a competition where it was Cajun food, so I did a Cajun chicken and dirty rice. And yes, it's just the picture. Obviously the people in the group can't taste the food, so a picture is worth 1,000 words, but I placed third. So I was pretty shocked by that because I don't do Cajun a whole lot. And I won a spice, which actually came today. So I wanted to say thank you to Foul Mouth Foodies and Aaron, and Cajun Lee, which is, I believe, CajunLee.com. But Cajun Lee Spice Blend it's like a 50-year-old family recipe. So I'm really looking forward to trying this. And I just thought it was pretty cool because I haven't played or whatever you want to call it in a lot of food competitions. I've won quite a few with my chili.
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of food competitions since I've gone low sodium because, people with a salty palate, my food may be good, but, as Kent said yesterday, need salt. Thanks, Kent.
Those pickles. In fact, there's just a few left in the fridge in the jar because I've been eating them. Everybody's been eating them. But yeah, it is funny because you eat it and you're like, I need salt.
Yeah.
But when you're salty like Kent and I, but they're still really freaking good.
And that's the thing. It's like I don't expect people to say, oh, it tastes like it's salted. And occasionally that happens. There's quite a few meals that I make for my husband that happens. But it's not so much to say that my food is salted or feels salted. It's that it's still good and flavorful and not bland. that it still resembles what you're trying to cook. But I'm actually really excited, and I just love winning stuff because who doesn't like to win stuff? So I had to give a shout out to my buddy Aaron and Foulmouth Foodies, and then of course Cajun Lee at CajunLee.com. So thanks for the spice. I'll try it, and I'll post my pictures on my page of whatever I decide to make with Mr. Cajun Lee stuff. So
That's cool. That's very cool. Well, also right here, since we are at the bottom of the hour, go ahead and talk about 216thenet, 216thenet.com. You can actually go to the website, listen live anytime you want to listen live, or just download the app. App works on any smartphone. Doesn't matter if it's Apple or Google or Droid, whatever you have, it works just fine. Works on any tablet, any pad. Just go to your favorite app store and just search 21.6 the net. So 21.6 space the space net in any app store, and you can just get it. Just click it, get it, download it. It doesn't cost anything to have the app, and there are no in-app purchases. Always drives me nuts when you get an app that's free and it's not free because in order to play it or do whatever, there's in-app purchases. None of that with the 216 The Net app. It's completely free. We just want you to listen, want you to have fun and tune in. And of course, because we are able to have partners with us like Prime Media Consulting LLC, primemediaconsulting.com, 847-752-0018. Love these guys. Love Alex with that company. If you need SEO support to get your business to show up at the top of any Google search, man, can they do that for you. It's amazing what they're able to do. And of course, Natural Therapy Wellness Center. If you're stressed out, you need somebody to give you a massage, help you out a little bit, go to McHenryMassage.com or give them a call, 815-385-8190. Of course, Advanced Pain Rehab, 224-623-1599, AdvancedPainRehab.com. Check them out. They can help you out there if you're suffering mobile, accounting, ink. Give them a call. You need help with your bookkeeping, your taxes. Phenomenal support there. And of course, Frequency R Us products, frequencyrus.com. Frequency formulated, frequency made jewelry to help you live a little easier, live a little better, live pain-free. Very cool stuff. And we've got support coming from quite a few others you're going to start seeing on our wall here. We're looking forward to working with Wella Financial, Stuckey's, looking forward to working with so many more people. You can't hardly wait. It's fantastic. So now we're back here with Mary Shep on My LoSo Lifestyle. I know that we were talking about finding the time, making the time, keeping a well-stocked kitchen. You talked about, preparing in advance. One of the things you mentioned too was shortcuts. What can people do with that?
So
with those?
Real quick before I forget, the Cajun Lee spice, even though I will use it and I'll use it to good use, since this is a low sodium show and I have a lot of low sodium listeners, I want to mention that it is not a low sodium product. It does have salt in it. So you got to be sparing, but it still is a good product and it still is worth using. And maybe I'll talk to Mr. Cajun Lee about creating a less salted blend and see what he can come up with. But I wanted to make sure so people didn't go out and think it's low sodium and then chastise me for saying it's not.
Well, no, but maybe they would love to help support My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep.
I'll reach out to them because a lot of these times when they make spice blends like that, they have the means to make, they have the knowledge so they can make it low sodium and they can reduce the salt in it very easily, and it still is very flavorful. Shortcuts. So people a lot of times pass by shortcuts that they don't even think about, like the rotisserie chicken in your store.
Yeah.
So to buy a whole bird, a roaster bird, it's like $6 to $9 depending on how fat that bird is. It's like $6 to buy a pre-cooked roasted rotisserie bird at just about any deli in any grocery store.
So it's the same whether it's cooked or not cooked.
Right. So you save yourself the time in prepping and cooking, and they have different options. So you've got unseasoned birds, you've got seasoned birds, you've got all sorts of different options that you can go for. So as long as you watch the labels, you can pick that. And to have and a lot of times, like the store that I shop at, the leftovers at the end of the day, obviously they're not just going to throw out 6 chickens that didn't get purchased. They shred them for you, leave them at the same price, and put them over on the side of the deli counter in another cabinet where you can buy pre-shredded chicken for chicken salads, fajitas, quesadillas, anything sandwiches, anything you want to make from a rotisserie chicken. And now your meal turned from an hour into a 5-second thing.
Man.
So,
well, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. But they have all of the stuff at the deli counter. It's the same thing that we had talked about last week in the restaurants. When you call ahead, don't be a dick. Don't show up when there's 16,000 people at the deli counter and go, can you tell me the nutritional specs of your kale salad? No, because some kid behind the deli counter is going to go, we don't have that. Yeah, they do. If they're a larger chain, family-owned groceries, probably not. But larger chains, I believe they're required to have the nutritional specs, mostly because of allergen reasons. But they can give you those specs. So if you call in advance and say, hey, I like your macaroni salad, or I like your potato salad, or I like whatever you make, call in advance. I know which salads at my deli that I can eat and get in advance. You can also ask them, and most will rotisserie something for you. So if you call in advance and say, I want to have dinner tonight, I don't want a chicken, can you rotisserie a pork roast?
Really? They'll do that?
They will.
I didn't know that.
Not all of them, but a lot of them will. It doesn't take them any extra effort. You're going to buy it. They just take it off the shelf, stick it on the spit, and they put it in a roaster that roasts like 30 birds and stuff at the same time. So they can do that. And they used to have that at a lot of stores, just people didn't buy them. So a lot of those places will make you a roast on your own. So it's a huge shortcut for me. I can't tell you how many times I've stopped and gotten a roasted chicken breast or whatever it is that they have, and they have an unseasoned option. So I have the luxury of going home, and even though it's cooked, you can recook it with your season and make fajitas. And then you don't have to spend an hour cooking or dissecting a bird.
Never, ever have occurred to me to even do that.
Right.
Of course,
and the same with the salads and stuff.
Yeah, my wife would probably be like, "Well, of course you can do that."
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't.
Because we already discovered she's the smart one in the relationship.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why I've made it to well past 50. She's kept me alive.
Right.
But,
that's funny.
That's really kind of cool. I never would have thought of that. I wonder if they would do a duck.
So that can be tricky because they don't have it. That's usually a seasonal item. So during Thanksgiving, when they have duck, they very well might. So if you purchase the duck and ask them, they might put it in their rotisserie. But turkey and duck, those are kinds of things that if you notice aren't readily available. Like right now, if you walked into the grocery store, you could probably find ground turkey. You will not find, you might find turkey leg. You just don't find it because people don't buy it. So they don't carry it.
Huh.
Me personally, I get my turkey, my duck, and I still buy meat from my grocer just because my butcher isn't open 24 hours and my grocer is. And some days I get home, off work at 10 o'clock at night. But the majority of my proteins I try and get straight from a butcher, especially if it's going to be a duck or a turkey, because those cuts of meat are almost exclusively brined. So this Thanksgiving, when you look, I will probably be placing my order for my turkey here in the next couple weeks through my butcher. And it is a little bit more expensive, but I know I can eat as much as I want. I can freeze as much as I want. And even though it's me and my husband, I still get a huge bird because I can freeze all that meat.
And then you have it for,
I
as
have
long
gravy,
as you want it.
I have all of that stuff freezes phenomenally well. So I make a big batch of gravy, big batch of turkey, big batch of everything, stuffing the whole 9 yards, throw it in the freezer, and we've got Thanksgiving dinner for weeks to come. But those specialty birds, all of the game meat and stuff like that, typically you need to get through a butcher. They are getting a little bit better. So in years past, you have been able to find those cuts at grocers. Like you'll find turkeys, they're very few, far between because they don't sell a lot. So they tend to only order so many. So once people find out that there's a low sodium option at the store, they sell out really fast. So those, but yeah, absolutely. If you call in advance, again, it's a human being behind the counter. Yeah, and granted, you're going to get the jerk every once in a while, but chances are you're going to get someone who's going to understand. And if you're doing it during off hours when they're not busy and you're respectful and kind and genuinely just inquiring, they're going to be good to you. So it's, it doesn't hurt to call and ask. Some other shortcuts. I'm trying to think of the things that you can do and make in advance. Taco meat, fajita meat, chicken. You can make all of this stuff in a huge batch and freeze it, and it keeps for a long time. So a quick dinner, you can, everybody comes home, and those nights where you've got, half my friends, their kids have baseball and hockey, and it's I don't envy them. I know you love your kids, but holy Christmas, the amount of money and time spent on, like, one of my good friends, her son's in hockey, and he's really good. He's really good, but man, the smell that comes from hockey gear, and I'm a hockey fan. I love to play hockey. I love everything about hockey. But the gear stinks, the sport stinks, it's extremely expensive. And it's time consuming between the practices. So when you come home, if you think you get home from practice at 6:30 and your kids go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest, and you've got dinner and homework and quality time and bath and brush your teeth and all this stuff. So when you have a big batch, it's just, what do you want? Oh, I want fajitas. Sweet. I'm going to grab a bag of fajitas out of the freezer, nuke it. It's done. A bag of chili. You want a burger? Fine. Throw a burger on the grill and grab some mashed potatoes out of the freezer. So when you have that prep, it seems daunting, but if you just suck it up, and if you hate cooking that much, you prep one day, make a huge batch of a bunch of stuff, throw it in your freezer. And if you do that every once in a while, it takes me a long time to go through a huge batch of taco meat. So it does, because if you do a huge batch of it.
Well, what's a huge batch?
I buy it, like, when I do my cooking, I tend to buy, like, I'll go and buy ground beef in like a 5-pound thing.
Okay.
So then, and I have a spare freezer. And for those of you that don't, they're not super expensive. You can get a chest freezer, a tiny little chest freezer for, $150, $200 at tops. And I know that's a lot of money to a lot of people, including myself. But it makes a big difference, especially when time is a factor and you can make stuff so fast. Even pot roast, you throw it in the freezer and boom, you just pull it out, throw it in a bowl and nuke it. And you have all these meals really quick. And then you save, 2 days a week for the days that you have the time to make a full blown, I'm going to sit and take the time to make a meal now in my kitchen. But those shortcuts between knowing what your deli sells, knowing what your big box places sell, and knowing the nutrition behind them, that little itty bitty tiny bit of planning goes a long way to making your cooking life a lot simpler.
I imagine just even a couple of the things you said, right, I never ever would have thought of. But then again, like you said, my wife is the smart one.
And people don't think of, like, breakfast for dinner, like the rotisserie chicken. Chop up a bunch of that chicken, some eggs and some pepper, throw some taco seasoning in it, mix it with 6 eggs or so, throw it in a pan, put it in the oven for 20 minutes, and you have a chicken taco frittata for dinner.
Wow. Yeah, that would not have occurred to me either. Because but see, I don't really do breakfast for dinner. I'm not a breakfast for dinner kind of guy.
I don't know if we can be friends, my friend.
Well, I mean, if there's bacon, that's okay.
That's okay.
But that's about as far as I'll eat bacon any time of day, anywhere, any place.
If I could.
But
I can't. But
by the way, we've got Lisa Hansen who said hi, Mary.
Hey, Lisa.
And Doreen Heineman. I'm so happy you're doing this, Maureen. Yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you.
Phil, smoked turkey is the best. Yes, when I occasionally, I love to get my smokers out and work with those. I haven't this year. Actually, I haven't smoked anything this year at all. Jim is he's gonna go shoot his wild turkey this year for Thanksgiving. It'll be salt free. Oh, actually, Jim, maybe you can, that might actually be something for the LoSo community. They can connect with a local hunter who can go out and
Oh,
actually
yeah.
get them what they want without having to worry about any kind of brining or salting at all.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of places that you don't realize that are around that do that. Like even around here, people wouldn't think about it. There's plenty of places. There's a pheasant farm up towards the Wisconsin border.
Really?
There's the wild game all over the place. And if you go to the farmers markets,
Mhm.
any one of those butchers, they all live in the same communities. They all talk in the same communities, and they all know each other because they all deal with the same, regulations and stipulations and stuff like that. But even your butchers, they get their stuff from local organizations. So yeah, it's not that difficult to find yourself good game meat wherever you're at. So
I see, and that's another thing that just I when I look for food, I look for stuff that I can grab and shove in my mouth.
fastest way from your hand to your pie
Yes,
hole.
it is. That's how always. And if I mean, my wife is an amazing cook. I didn't even know food could taste the way it does until I met her.
Right.
Because my mother's a horrid cook, and it's if she happens to
Same.
catch, because she tunes in now and then, she'll even say she won't cook for herself.
Right.
She shops the way I used to, which is she goes to the store. If she can't buy it to put in the microwave, she won't get it. Now she'll get like the frozen vegetables and stuff like that. But my wife is an absolutely amazing cook, just phenomenal, which I am so incredibly thankful for and round for. But some of these, like, I would never have thought to connect with somebody who's a hunter and say, hey, while you're hunting, would you, if you bag something, I'll pay you for it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Jim. I don't know if that's a business model for you or not, but there you go, business tip for you, Jim.
Oh, I'm sure he's that's Cast Iron Jim. He's my cast iron guy.
Oh, well, there you
His
go.
book is sitting over here.
Yeah, it's
Cast
actually
Iron Journey is sitting over on the counter here. So yeah, no, I obviously a lot of people are against hunting and whatever, but I'm a meat eater. I'm always going to be a meat eater, and sorry if you're not. But
nope, I eat the meats.
Yeah. So we do have. There's someone had mentioned their air fryer, and
Phil had earlier.
There's a lot of cooking gadgets that can help you minimize the time. Me, I'm always going to be partial to my cast iron. I just love my Dutch oven. The flavor that a sear imparts, and we touched on this in one of our other episodes, the Maillard reaction. It's a flavor that you can't replace. You can't get that out of a crock pot unless you sear it first and then put it into a crock pot or a slow cooker or whatever. You're just missing that reaction, and you're just not going to get it. So I will always be partial to my cast iron, which is a long, slow process. However, I have the luxury that I can cook in those things. And even if you don't have a lot of time, when you get home, if you throw all of that stuff in that pot right away, you spend 10, 15 minutes throwing it in your Dutch oven and putting it in the oven, and then you go about your business, the kids' homework, your showers and baths and whatever you're doing, cleaning, whatever it is your lifestyle has. And then a few hours later, you just pull it out of the oven and enjoy dinner or lunch or whatever you're cooking. So even though it is a lengthy process, it's still the amount of time that you're actually involved with it is like a half an hour. But people don't do it because they're like, oh, or like meatballs. So for the longest time, I didn't make meatballs, not because I didn't know how, but because my perspective was that it was time consuming.
Well, yeah, I mean, my wife makes meatballs that take a long time to make.
Right. So I make the reason my perspective was that way is because I would make a big batch and freeze them. So it was this huge process, chopping everything up and so on and so forth. And now that I have all of those bits and pieces chopped up, I will literally just pick up a pound of ground beef or a pound of lamb, and it makes like 8 to 12 meatballs depending on how big you make it. So it's like making a meatloaf. I just throw it in a bowl, throw a bunch of chopped bits in it, roll them into little balls, and put it in the oven. And all of a sudden, because the last couple of times I made it, and I looked at my husband, I'm like, how come I don't know what I was thinking, why I didn't make meatballs. He's like, I don't know. They're always good. I said, I didn't say they weren't good. I just, my perspective was that it was so unbelievably time consuming. Well, sure it is if I make 62 of them, but to make 1 pound, it takes me about 10 minutes. Throw it all in a bowl, mix it up, roll it into balls, put it in the oven. And it's done.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if your wife makes them, she probably makes a bigger batch of them.
Shoot, I don't know. Well, I mean, they're big.
Right.
They're like, I don't know. They're big. And then they simmer for like a long.
And everybody has different ways. And I have a way that I make them that way too. But
they simmer in the sauce for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And they are so good. They are really, really good.
But cooking gadgets, the slow cooker, crock pot, and then air fryers and Instapots are huge these days. Everybody's got an Instapot.
What's an Instapot?
Instapot is like a slow cooker and a pressure cooker had a baby. So pressure cookers use pressure to cook faster, and slow cookers it's a long and slow process, but it's in a safe environment to leave on for long periods of time. So it kind of combines those two things to make things faster. So for the home cook that can throw everything in an Instapot and kind of like a slow cooker, and there's a billion recipes online for slow cookers or for Instapots and slow cookers. So it's a very time friendly cooking gadget for people that feel that they don't have the time. Air fryers, on the other hand, it's like a little tiny mini oven, but it cooks in such a fashion that it's like frying food.
That's still amazing because my wife has one, and she'll make. She fried
French
chicken.
Fries, yeah.
She fried fries.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm thinking, okay, it's probably not going to taste the same. It's crispy. It's crunchy. It's good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is good. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So, and she could even do like tots. And I freaking love tater tots.
I know, I miss tater tots so bad.
I do love tater tots.
That's the depressing thing about tater tots is that you would think it's just potatoes. Like, can't they make, and they do, there are some low sodium versions of tater tots out there, but it's potatoes and salt. If I eat tater tots, I'm going to have like 62 tater tots.
Is it possible to make your own tots?
It is. But it's time consuming.
I mean, I wouldn't even know how to make an actual tot.
They have a lot of water in them, so you got to contend with the water because when you cook them, it steams the water out and you get mush. So you got to get the water out and you got to shred them, and then you got to season them and you got to form them into little balls. And it is a time consuming process to make your own tater tots. I've done it and they are fantastic, and you can, and they freeze well. So if you are a foodie like me and you like to take the time to do something of that nature, you can. But if you buy store-bought tater tots, you got to pay really close attention because almost all store-bought potatoes are laden with salt. You get like 10 tater tots for 350 milligrams of sodium.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are not low. And like I said, if I'm going to eat tater tots, it's going to be like half a bag of tater tots.
Man, wow.
Yeah.
So now I know you also wanted to talk about meal plans and menus, and we're already coming up on just 4 minutes left. So holy cow.
I play a good planner on Facebook. I'm not a good planner. I'm a fly by the seat of my whatever I want to cook planner.
Now, see, you could have just said you were, and everybody would have
I'm also
thought,
a horrible liar
because everything you've presented so far is friggin' phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. So I do plan a little bit. I forgot. Someone called me an inadvertent planner or something like that. Obviously, by having my refrigerator stocked and my freezer stocked and my pantry stocked, there is a little bit of planning that goes behind that. But a lot of that isn't necessarily planning. It's acquired knowledge. I know I cook a lot of onions. I know I cook a lot of potatoes. I know, I know what I cook. I know what I like. So I know what to make in big batches, so it's more of an acquired knowledge of my own diet and just paying attention versus I've got a friend of mine, you walk into her house and you can tell what she's doing every second of the day because she's got a calendar that says, 2:00 soccer practice and 2:15 this and 3:15 that and 12:25. She schedules everything. And if you're a planner, then make a full blown meal plan. Go through the whole week and say, okay, Sundays are going to be a one pot meal, and Mondays are going to be grilled dinner, and Tuesdays are always tacos, and Wednesdays are meatballs, Thursdays casserole, and Saturdays leftover. You can make your own meal plan. You can do like I do and say, okay, I'm going to buy 3 meals worth of food. I want to make fajitas this week, pot roast this week, and tacos. So I'm going to go grocery shopping and make a list based on those things. And then the rest of the week, we pretty much just fend for ourselves and do leftovers. Because if you make a big enough batch, you can, like my sauce makes stuffed peppers. So you can pull a stuffed pepper out of my freezer and either put it in the oven, or like my husband likes to do, put it in a bowl with 2 tablespoons of water and throw it in the microwave. That's it. So in 2 minutes, he's got a stuffed pepper, and it's fantastic. That's all it takes. So you can make those if you have a menu. And I do have my Thanksgiving menu posted, and I'm slowly working on posting some of my other menus. I'm just taking what I eat for the week and posting it as a weekly menu so that you can see, you can pick and choose what those kinds of things you like to see if I can help people. Because like you said, you would have never thought to get a rotisserie chicken. So how do you know to think of what you don't know to think of?
Well, yeah, you don't know what you don't know,
right?
Which is why, because some of these things that you've talked about, never ever would have occurred to me.
Right.
But we're coming up on just under a minute left here. Is there?
Thanks, Dad. My dad said it's a good show. Thanks, Dad.
That's cool. Anything else that you want to? How can people find you here on Facebook? Why don't you tell them that?
You can find me at my LoSo Lifestyle. LoSo is LoSo, stands for low sodium. It's just an acronym we use. But my LoSo Lifestyle is my Facebook page. It's got my recipes, my pictures, all that stuff on it. And you're welcome to shout out and give me any questions you got anytime.
Awesome. So, all right. Well, folks, until next time, this has been Mary Shep and my LoSo Lifestyle. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and continue to tune in and check us out every Thursday here at 11 o'clock, and everything else on 216thenet, 216thenet.com. We'll see you again next time.
In your way. I think you still need to end the live video. I think we're still live.
We are.
2 minutes long.
Oh, over there. we're actually off the air now.
Well, I know we're off the radio station.
But
that's
we'll go.
I don't want to do something to offend anybody on Facebook Live.
All right. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Is there anything else here? No. You guys are making me hungry. All right, Phil. Go get some lunch.
Thanks,
all right. Cool.